We're moving right along here in our e-seminar on the pastoral letter on new ways of being church in a digital milieu. We hope that the videos that you have been seeing and the PowerPoints that have been presented in session one have been helpful to you. And I would like to take our discussion a little bit deeper in this PowerPoint presentation. First of all, let's keep in mind that our whole role in engaging in social communications is all about how does what we imagine for the church in a digital milieu impact the church, and how the church is present within the parish. You know, we're not just all about using social media for social media's sake. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We need to have a goal and a purpose. And one of our goals, or a combination of our goals and purposes, is that we really want to proclaim the good news, to kindle a mature and animated faith among our Catholic faith community, and also to support and encourage them and to help them to become more conscious of the integral human development and social transformation that is needed within our cultures and among peoples today. So all of our work needs to be towards evaluating what impact does this have on total social transformation within our culture. So a new way of being church then is just that. It's not limiting ourselves to doing more things, but doing what we are doing to do it well, and to truly engage in quality, solidarity, stewardship, and being able to really work together. So that's a new way of being church. Aetatis Novae tells us and encourages us that the media are intended to play an important role in integral development of human persons and societies. So this is never left on the side. This is central to our mission as we begin to ask this question. So we say, how can the Antilles Episcopal Conference and Cygnus Caribbean support and complement this vision that was articulated in Aetatis Novae and so well explained within the pastoral letters of a new way of being church in a digital milieu? Aetatis Novae encourages as well is that the use of media is essential for evangelization catechesis. There is a new methodology out there for how and where young people, all people, are beginning to hear and understand and embrace the good news. Media is so much a part of their lives through images and music and sound and simplicity that we also need to find a new way if we want to animate the faith in the 21st century. Aetatis Novae says that in spite of all the difficulties involved, and we see this, often we can identify what are the difficulties of why we can or cannot use social media, what we do or do not have. We can't think of the cup being constantly half empty. It's always half full at least. And we need to find ways to develop and maintain and foster specifically Catholic instruments and programs for social communications, not just copying what is being done in the secular milieu, but taking the gifts, the strengths that are present within that milieu and give it that Catholic dimension that can truly speak the good news in a new language, with a new psychology, new techniques today. Aetatis Novae says it is not simply one more program alongside others. When we think about our Catholic media work of Catholic communications, it doesn't mean we work in a silo. Remember that from our first presentation, that all communications is its own silo apart from other ministries. But Catholic media work has to be woven into every single ministry in the diocese, and therefore this collaborative teamwork is essential if we are going to have the impact that is necessary in the 21st century. Communication and education go hand in hand together. Aetatis Novae stated this over and over again, that it has to be an integral part of the pastoral formation of workers and priests, of laity, of catechists, Catholic school teachers, all those in our parishes today. We can create many forms of ongoing formation in our seminaries, in our permanent diaconate programs, in our catechetical programs, etc. We do have the Caribbean School for Catholic Communications, which is directed for the whole region where we can come together. We need to focus on how can we make what really is working well stronger in order to support all of us as we begin to move forward. And yet we can take models of this and adapt it in various ways in various dioceses in various parts of the region as well. So church personnel require at least a working grasp of the impact of this new technology. Atatas Nove says, Atatas Nove didn't say that we had to all be experts in this. I think we may panic when we think, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't know the knowledge to do this, can't be involved. We just need to have a working grasp of the impact of this. And just a working grasp means that we bring others around us who really know what this new media world is all about. The young people in our culture, the millennials, Generation Z, and others, they live, they think, they breathe this new social media world and personnel. And this is what we need to do. We simply need to have a working grasp of it in order to give a direction for how we want to encourage others to work with us in order to communicate faith in the 21st century. So the Atatas Nove, it recommended that therefore we need to have a communications component in every pastoral plan. It didn't say just communications, but every pastoral plan of every ministry within the diocese. The goal of the pastoral letter on communications for the Antilles Episcopal Conference is exactly directed in this direction, how to weave these all together to work together. I hope you've heard that in some of the comments that have been expressed by some of the bishops from the Antilles Episcopal Conference regarding supporting this pastoral letter. So communications ought to be taken into account in formulating all of our work within the church. That's basically what it comes down to. So we look at some of the ways of some of the ministries within the church that we may see that you may include in your pastoral planning process. Now, it's very simple. An integrated pastoral communications plan, as we've identified it, it's been identified within the pastoral letter, involves 4 phases, 4 simple phases. And I'm going to try to hopefully make this simple. And we will continue to develop resources for each one of these phases as we work together through these e-seminars, which is one of our goals of the e-seminar. The 4 phases are the research phase, which makes a lot of sense. We've got to do our homework, gather the data first before we begin doing anything. Second, we begin to design a plan of action. So we take an initiative, a program, an idea, and we build around the research that we found to make it having great impact collaboratively together. Then we implement it. We actually put it into practice. Maybe we pilot it one time, or we actually bring it into the public forum. And finally, we evaluate it. So did we reach our goals? Did it achieve what we wanted to do? And if it did, great. Is there any way we can enhance it? Or do we need to refine it so we put it into action the second time? So here are the 4 phases: research, design, implementation, evaluation, and refinement. 4 easy steps to remember. The 2 key steps, research phase and design phase, probably take initially the most amount of time because it takes thinking time. It calls us to sit down around the table, talk to one another, collaborate together, bring about some synergy together. So phase 1, what are some elements of the research phase? So let's explore it. Well, the research phase. We want to explore currently what is active, what social media, what communication resources or tools are really active within our diocese or region. What are we actually using that is available? So you may say, oh, we're using radio, we're using a website, we're using Twitter, we're using Facebook, we're using whatever you might be using, but identify them to say, this is what's currently being used. Second, we try to identify what is currently available within the diocese or region. There could be social media or communication resources that are available that I surely have not even thought about using. But maybe now as we brainstorm and we start making a list of all the things that we know are out there, whether we use them or don't use them, we begin to develop a real strong base from which we can work with. And then we ask the question, what are the opportunities and challenges needed to be addressed when we begin to utilize some of these new trends? Sharing the resources is in phase 1. Means if perhaps the Office for Catechesis or the Catholic Schools Office or the Social Justice Office or the Family Life Office, they may have some resources that could benefit some of the other diocesan ministries. Instead of being in a silo and holding these to ourselves, how do we begin to share these with one another and to try to find new patterns, new methodologies? And we dialogue with our different ministries to enhance this collaborative effort. Once we begin to see all these various different educational approaches that might be out there, we also need to educate ourselves to say, what do I need to learn in order that we can use these more effectively? This might mean creating some special workshops, bringing in some other professionals in to help us brainstorm. It might be going to the Caribbean School for Catholic Communications, working on some diocesan workshops or workshops without the region. And spiritual formation is very important, because without having a deep spiritual grounding in what our mission is all about, how can we communicate effectively the heart and the passion and the vision of the good news? So we always want to think about spiritual formation. So these are some of the elements that we want to take into consideration when we're dealing with phase one, as well as that networking with secular media. Bring them into the conversation, create a bridge here of synergy, advancing this new synergy. It's a way of public relations to support all the ministries of the church and support ongoing social communications media research. Once we finish the research phase, we're not ended. We've just begun to lay the foundation to explore, to become familiar, to come to know what questions we need to ask or where we need to look. We'll always be working with research in this research phase as we advance once we complete the first go-around of the process. In phase two, we begin to design an initiative. We may look at a project and say, this is what we would like to work on together. Maybe it's something in social justice. Perhaps it's something in catechesis, something in evangelization, something in interreligious dialogue, something in liturgy. We can think about what initiative that is very dominant within the church's attention right now that we want to address, and how can the various offices, ministries within the diocese sit down around the table together and say, this is what I could contribute, this is what I could contribute. Each one could contribute something to the conversation. And then we discern our audience and the desired impact, because not every program can reach all the people all the time. It simply is not working that way today. We have to well define our audience, because the medium that we will use, the methodology that we will use, the images, the words, the music, all of that will impact a particular audience. So we have to clarify that audience. And then share the content. What's most important in the content we want in that message, and what are the creative approaches? Think outside the box. Don't think the same way we've done something in the past, but radically think outside the box. Let the Holy Spirit move us in new ways. So identify the social media or video production initiative that you might want to implement. Then we could say, okay, this is the social media we want to use. This is the one that will reach the audience we want to reach. This is the impact we'll have. And then as you go to plan how you're going to pilot this, because we want to experiment with it the first time, work together of identifying diverse groups of people who we want to pilot, who want to hear that message. That's what we want to hear, the message that we've created, to see the impact in order to see if we need to make any adjustments. So we identify a pilot faith community to test it, to see what will this work before we open it to the public forum. In phase three is the implementation. This is where we actually put it into action. We've researched it, we piloted it, and now we're going to implement it. We put it into action. And we also define the evaluation criteria. How will we know that we've reached our audience? How do we know that it's had some impact on their lives? We don't have to necessarily say the word success, because it depends on what you mean success. I think in this criteria, we're looking at what is the impact that it has, and does it nurture a deeper sense of faith, a mature faith, and to bring about integral human development and social transformation, or raising the consciousness of human values, of family values in our lives. And we continue to network and collaborate as we are implementing it to involve more people. And then for this is what we call praxis for impact during the implementation. How does it impact the overall mission and vision of the diocese or the Antilles Episcopal Conference's vision and mission for the church? And finally, the evaluation enhancing. We need always to evaluate. So we determine if the Integrated Pastoral Communications Planning Initiative has met the mission and the vision of the church. If it hasn't, what do we need to adjust, adapt, or shift in the element of our design? How are we yet to enhance it and strengthen it or expand it if it has met these needs? And then we confirm the layout for the next stage of development implementation. That means we've gone through the 4 phases, we've completed this phase, now it's really ready to move forward right into the public forum, and we constantly are still going back through each one of those 4 phases of research and design and implementation and evaluation to keep it to be a living experience within the church. So what is possible? Keep in mind, my dear friends, that vision without action is only a dream. Action without a vision passes with time. Vision and action can advance the new evangelization of the church, can truly bring about transformation. That's what we want. We want to have a living, a dynamic, and active church, a faith-filled church that is concerned about integral human development and about social transformation for proclaiming the good news in the 21st century.